So when I hear people telling me today, oh, Africa is poor because of colonization, I'm like, please, let's move on from that. Does it have maybe a tiny percentage in where we are today? Maybe, and I don't know.
I want you guys to watch this video and share your thoughts and opinions with us. So please leave them in the comment section of this video. Let's watch.
That Mauritius is a rising star, and Rwanda is in some ways comparable to Georgia. So some of these countries have started to get this right.
Yes.
And so what's the consequence of that? And what does right mean?
What they have understood, what these countries have understood, is that economic freedom is at the center for prosperity building. Rwanda, for example, Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, is explicit about it. He said he wants to be the Lee Kuan Yew he wants to be the Singapore of Africa, and Lee Kuan Yew is his model. Now, the dirty mouths are gonna start shouting, oh yeah, see, authoritarian, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Me, I want to talk only about the on the economic side.
Yeah, so just watching it for about a few seconds or maybe up to a minute, I just want to point out the Singapore theory that everyone is referring to. For those of you who might not know, Lee Kuan Yew is like the father of Singapore. He personally built Singapore into what Singapore is today. Singapore, when the British left, was just a small island. They had nothing. But when Lee Kuan Yew came in, he realized that Singapore had potentials and he could use those potentials into building a prosperous nation that Singapore is today. And if you guys all know, Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world, but it's a very tiny island. We can all use what we have to build a prosperous nation. We can all use what we have to make our respective countries well developed and well prosperous. You don't have to have oil or gold or silver to make your country beautiful, to make your country rich. I believe every place or every corner of the world has something unique to them that if the people realize this, they can turn things around. They can completely change their destiny or the future of the country. But first, people need to realize it, and people need to get serious.
If you take Lee Kuan Yew and Singapore as your example, then it means that, like him, you're going to have to be serious about economic freedom. And that's exactly what he did. That's what Singapore did. When Singapore figured that out, they went on to put in the right reforms to make their environment some of the most business-friendly environments in the world, one of the most free markets environment in the world. And you saw the magic of Singapore. Today, Singapore is richer than its ex-colonizer, Great Britain.
Yeah, she's right on point. She is totally right. Singapore is like right up here. Singapore is very, very rich. And she mentioned about making the environment friendly enough for business to thrive. When you look at Africa, right, we sing it every day that we want people to come in. We want investors to come in. We want people to invest their money in Africa. But what have we done to make sure that Africa is safe enough for business? What have we done to make the environment safe enough, friendly enough, conducive enough so that business people can invest their money in Africa? Africa has one of the highest taxes in the whole world. They will tax you for almost every single thing. The government is just there to make sure that young businesses do not grow. People start businesses, but the environment is not favorable enough for their businesses to grow. We do not have tax breaks. We have high tax rate on businesses, How can businesses survive in such an environment? If we want to really move Africa forward, like she said, we all must be very pragmatic. We all must be very realistic. And we all must get very serious. We cannot have people come to invest in Africa where insecurity is all over the place. People won't come to invest if they are scared of being kidnapped, if they are scared of their properties being looted by bandits, if they are scared that the government is going to tax them, if they are scared that they cannot get a fair trial in case they found themselves in any situation. So, my brothers and sisters, in order for us to have these businesses, in order for us to really build Africa, a lot of things has to change. A lot of things has to get better. We have to make sure we fix our judiciary system so that we can get fair trials. We have to boost up security measures so that people who are investing, people who want to invest in the country are secure. They must feel secure. And most importantly, we need to cut down on taxing. Taxing alone is one of the most negative influence to investing. People will never come to invest in a place where they will be taxed so much. They won't. So we must all put these things in place before we can begin to even see investors coming in. So let's continue.
So when I hear people telling me today, oh, Africa is poor because of colonization, I'm like, please, let's move on from that. Does it have maybe a tiny percentage in where we are today? Maybe, and I don't know. But I know it's not the cause.
This point, I totally disagree with her. No, not a tiny. It has a lot, right? It has a lot. I think that, or I would want to believe that she hasn't been to French-speaking African countries, or she hasn't came across France-Afrique, the pact between French and their former African colonies. Or maybe she hasn't listened to Dr. Arikana, the former AU ambassador to America, because she has opened a lot of things when it comes to France-Afrique, the pact between France and its former African colonies. Colonization has done a lot to Africa. This fact cannot just be dismissed. But yet still, we cannot just take that as the only thing that is keeping us down. There are other factors, but no one should disregard or no one should belittle the effect of colonization in Africa or on Africa. Because even till date, France has a lot of influence over its former colonies in Africa. They pay a lot in colonial taxes to France. They had to keep their foreign reserves in France. But we can still move forward. We can look at colonization as something that happened to us and say, okay, we understand this happened and we've grieved enough and we are ready to move forward. But no one should take it for granted. No one should underlook it. So that's my own opinion.